This video is brought to you by Wix. What up, Wisecrack? Jared again, and today we're talking about the anime that isn't sure humanity has much time. That's right, we're taking a trip back inside the walls and revisiting Attack on Titan. Before we get started though, a quick shout out to us. In our first video on Attack on Titan, we pieced together all the German-sounding names and the vague political allusions to say that Attack on Titan was a show about a concept in political theory called the friend-enemy distinction. Check that video out, but the TLDR is functionally that this guy named Carl Schmitt said that friends and enemies were a foundational division in politics, without which some pretty bad stuff would happen. But we mused, what if the show is a critique of Carl Schmitt, who, by the way, is not a nice man and got caught up with some bad stuff in the 30s. Also, we didn't read the manga. And ta-da, that critique happened. As Attack on Titan has progressed, it became clear that the stark division between enemy and friend, i.e. Titan and human, is a pretty intense fabrication used to advance a specific agenda. Seasons 2 and 3 explore what happens when that distinction begins to crumble. Can we just patch up society and go home? Well, not quite. That's because, as the show explores, even when the truth is on your side, society has some great defense mechanisms to uphold the status quo. So strap on your ODM gear and join us as we go deep on Attack on Titan Seasons 2 and 3, and as always, spoilers ahead. First up, want to say thank you to our sponsors over at Wix. Wix is the easiest way to create beautiful, professional websites for whatever your needs may be. I'm actually trying to get into the professional voiceover game, so I created a website with Wix to present all my voice samples. So check it out, I was creating a website for myself, and I wanted a portfolio and CV, and I'm a total noob. Then I literally started typing and there was already a template for voiceover artists. I picked a style I liked, and within minutes I was dragging and dropping my audio files, and bam. Now I have something I'm confident to send out to potential clients. Establishing yourself as a professional in a new space can be daunting, but I was really surprised by how inviting and easy it was to create a website that makes it look like I know what I'm doing. So, if you're looking to up your game before 2019, go to wix.com/wisecrack or click the link in the description to start making your free website today. And now, back to the show. Let's start with a quick recap. Attack on Titan is about the last vestiges of humanity hiding out behind giant walls to avoid naked man-eating titans. As you might imagine, with giant monsters on the outskirts of your walls, a pretty rational us versus them structure society. This is a pretty high-risk lifestyle, and sure enough, Titans break through the outermost wall. From there, things go from dire to downright dystopic, and it's up to the Scouts, mankind's outrider strike force, to get shit under control. But like the city's walls, the stark division between human and Titan doesn't last very long. At the end of Season 1, the Scouts realize that one of their own, Eren, can shapeshift between human and Titan. Also, he might be able to use his Titan power to seal that pesky hole in the outer wall. In Season 2, a bunch of Titans emerge and trap the Scouts in a castle, where fellow Scout Ymir turns into a Titan, surprise, to rescue them. Apparently everyone is a Titan, as Berthold and Reiner are, in fact, the Colossal and Armored Titan respectively. They kidnap Eren, but the Scouts are able to rescue him and start laying out their plan to fix the wall. Eren learns he can control nearby Titans, and we learn that this lady Krista is actually named Historia, which is very important. Then Season 3 happens. Erwin, the commander of the Scouts, stages a coup d'etat by turning the people against the nobles. Scouts Eren and Historia are kidnapped by Historia's father, the true king Rod Reiss. They escape, but not before Rod Reiss becomes the grossest Titan to date. He attacks the city, but Eren and Historia kill him, cementing Historia as a warrior queen the people can get behind. Finally united, the people can get back to retaking the outer wall. Whew, okay, now we're all caught up, but what do we make of all that? Well, as we mentioned, Attack on Titan has always been about the distinction between friend and enemy. In regular speak, it's the idea that the easiest way to get society to work together is if they're against someone else. While Season 1 showed a whole society built around this principle, Seasons 2 and 3 explore how people in power knowingly manufacture this false divide. As such, Attack on Titan is a show about the flow of information. Each episode includes an interstitial labeled "Information available for public disclosure," which implies a trove of information not available to the public. Some of that classified information includes the Titan inside the wall. Brother Nick, a priest of the wall, might know something about it, but he gets got by the interior police before he can say too much. And when a young Erwin talks about some of his father's theories on history in public, well, let's just say that no one has to worry about waking daddy anymore. Another critical secret is the fact that some of these psycho killer titans are in fact just shape-shifting people. Eren is the first example we meet, but at the end of Season 1 we see Annie shapeshift, and in Season 2, Ymir, Reiner, and Bertolt all transform. We even see a town where most of the population has changed into titans.
今回出現した巨人の正体がラガコ村の住人。
Of course, this is a critical secret and one the nobles will do anything to keep under wraps. That's just the tip of the conspiratorial iceberg. Behind the already repressive government, there's an even more autocratic system that exists in the shadows. It turns out that the king we thought was in charge is just a figurehead. Instead, the city is ruled by the Rice family, currently Rod and his heir Astoria, who have the royal blood necessary to control the powers of the founding Titan.
しかしその力はレイス王家の血を引くものでないと真の力が発揮されない。
Powers like changing the memory of the citizens and even creating the walls.
あの三重の壁もその巨人の力だ。
All of that is happening behind the scenes, determining the fate of the people who have no idea it even exists. The nobles go to great lengths to keep the secret government secret. This includes orchestrating a series of attacks with the dual goals of kidnapping Eren and Historia for the sake of Rod Rice's plan, and framing the scouts for acting against humanity's interests.
ではここに同胞への重大な違反を認め全調査兵の身柄を拘束する。
Why frame the scouts? Because between seeing several different people turn into titans, they've realized that the founding myth of their society, that titans are unthinking people eaters, is in fact a lie.
同じ言語のはずなんだが。
Nor does anyone bother to mention the role Titans played in constructing the walls that define the world for most of humanity.
僕たちはずっと巨人によって巨人から守られていた。
Almost every choice the show makes is premised on the withholding or discovery of information.
選ぶのは誰だ？誰が選ぶ？お前は誰を信じる？
That idea is so central to the show, it's embedded into the narrative structure. Attack on Titan is a mystery box show, where the primary driving force of the narrative is moving from one secret to the next, rather than moving along narrative arcs. It's a difficult balance, but so far the show has pulled it off by putting the audience in the scouts' shoes. Just as Eren and co have to decide who to trust and what to believe, so do we as we watch. The more we learn, the more we understand, but the more questions we have, and same with the scouts. But this doesn't mean people are kept totally in the dark. Rather, the information people do get is designed to lead them to conclusions that support the system as is.
さすが王様、気前いいですね。
To that end, there is a newspaper that provides information to the population. Unfortunately, they only report what the interior police tell them they should.
中央憲兵に関わることは一切記述しませんので。
This process of giving people enough information that they don't bother to question the structure providing it, or the world they live in, is described by scholar Hamid Dabashi as epistemic endosmosis, where older models of government assumed the lower classes were unthinking, illiterate idiots who wouldn't even know what to do with the truth. Dabashi argues that power can be solidified by providing bad information to the thinking and literate people of the world. Dabashi explains that this is information to consume, not question. Furthermore, it's not meant to generate a coherent body of knowledge, but is instead single-serving, meant to induce action for a specific event. In Attack on Titan, we see this in the form of state propaganda and city newspapers that give people enough information that they feel like they're making decisions, when instead, they're being manipulated. Now, while in the real world this kind of epistemic endosmosis generates new knowledge on demand for whatever benefits those in power want on a given day, it has a pretty singular purpose in Attack on Titan, to maintain the myth of the Titan as outsider monster. That story enables those in power to justify almost any action in the name of defending the people from the monsters outside the walls. Actions like rationing food, limiting people's movement,
避難民を何人たりとも入れてはならんぞ。
and even attempting to execute Erwin, who's a goddamn hero. But why lie about the Titans in the first place? Well, it varies from character to character, but there are two main reasons: power and belief. As for power, the city, with a three-wall design to protect against Titan attacks, also happens to be based on a strict class structure that enables the nobles' cushy lifestyle. They work to perpetuate a stratified city suffering from resource shortages and the occasional naked giant incident, because it's that status quo that keeps them in mansions and fancy robes. When Erwin orchestrates a false alarm about a Titan attack, the nobles don't hesitate to bar refugees from the inner wall.
住民の避難が最優先じゃ。はっ、ダメだ。ウォールシーナの扉を全て閉鎖せよ。
In this moment, we see that their interest in the system has nothing to do with protecting the people. It's all about protecting themselves.
オルシーナさえ残ればどうにでもなる。
Without the myths that control society, someone might get to thinking that having a bunch of disconnected rich dudes in charge might be a bad idea.
民衆が従うと思っているのか。民衆は王に貸し付くのみだぞ。
The other, more complicated reason is belief. This idea is most clearly manifested in the character of Rod Reiche. Reiche sincerely believes that the only way to protect the people is to use the power of the founding Titan.
それはこの壁の世界を作った初代レイスの王が巨人に支配される世界を望んだからだ。初代王はそれこそが真の平和だと信じている。
Even if that means wiping people's minds and having his daughter eat her friend to become a Titan herself with all those fancy powers.
この中だなら強力な巨人になれる。こうと言っても正確には背骨を噛み砕き。
That power is so crucial to maintaining the status quo that Reiche thinks there's no price too high to pay for it, even his own daughter. Thus, when she rescues Eren, he takes the serum himself to try and inherit the power, but it goes awry and he almost kills everyone. What makes this dynamic extra complicated is Rod didn't always believe this. As a younger man, he and his brother Yuri wanted to destroy all the Titans. But when Yuri gained the founding Titan's power, he changed his mind and concluded that only the city could protect them. No matter the motivation, the problem with this hyper-zealous way of thinking is that it turns all political questions into ethical questions.
俺には王がいる。俺はこの壁の安泰と王を信じてる。俺たちのやってきたことは間違ってないと。
For Rod Reiche, whether he's trying to destroy all the Titans or maintaining the myth of the Titan, the stakes are the existence of humanity. Theorist Chantal Mouffe explains that when politics become a referendum on ethics, the politics part ceases to exist in favor of a battle between us and them. The process is simple. In Attack on Titan, the status quo is set up as the only way to protect humanity from the Titans. That means anyone opposed to the system represents an existential threat,
お前らが出頭しなければ囚われた調査兵は全員処刑される。
and thus they're evil, and when it comes to evil, there's no reasoning with it. The only option is to fight. For instance, when the city turns on the scouts, it's because these former heroes put society in danger by questioning dogma. So, the scouts need to be destroyed. The ultimate existential threat and ethical enemy, according to the Fat Cats and Mitras district, is the Titans. Of course, we know that's not entirely true. After the scouts discover Connie's village to be empty, they realize that many of the people there turned into Titans, including Connie's mother. But that doesn't matter in the face of an ethicized politics. When some people or Titans are determined to be an existential threat, the idea of understanding them goes out the window. Instead, it's time to grab the swords and slice some vital areas. The Titans exist as threats to justify the status quo, and things to destroy as a gesture towards safety. That dynamic is maintained by the control of information, of course, but that monopoly starts to come apart on the personal level. Characters are constantly forced to choose between promises they made to friends or themselves and the broader lie-fueled social obligations. Some characters have no issue rejecting the morals provided by society in the name of their own beliefs. For instance, Historia is unconditionally loyal to Ymir even though she's a Titan. At the same time, Eren is driven almost entirely by the hatred of Titans.
巨人を一匹残らず駆逐してやる。
Others are torn between these obligations constantly, like the Titans serving in the Scouts, Berthold, Reiner, and Ymir. Berthold and Reiner love their fellow soldiers, but are also bound to their duty as warriors. They're willing to capture Eren, but at the same time, they do end up letting him go. Then they end up with the Beast Titan setting a trap for Eren and the scouts.
座標の奪取を優先。当然だろ。
ここで待ってりゃ、あっちから来るんだし。
They are pulled in two directions at once, constantly switching between the two. Of course, nothing in Attack on Titan is simple, so the show is saying more than sometimes the rules of society conflict with personal commitment.
ウォールローゼの人間だ。扉の閉鎖は阻止させてもらう。
Instead, Attack on Titan makes it clear that as the social structure loses legitimacy, whether through its failure to protect the people or its myths crumbling, social bonds grow. As the scouts discover the truth, their connections solidify to the point of trumping their societal obligation. That's why they go to rescue Eren and Historia even as society turns against them. Perhaps no other moment illustrates this point better than Eren and Historia's confrontation in the cave. Rod Reiss has Eren chained up and offers Historia the Titan Serum. If she takes it, she will transform, eat her friend Eren, and become the founding Titan that Rod Reiss believes the city needs. Eren wants her to do it. He thinks if she eats him, she'll be able to not only protect the people, but kill the Titans.
俺を食って、人類を救ってくれ。
Eren spouts the city's myths at Historia to convince her
お前の姉ちゃんが全て何とかしてくれるはずだったんだろう。親父が巨人の力をあるべきところから盗んだせいで。
but she's not buying it.
うるさいバカ！泣き虫！黙れ！
She doesn't believe any of the social myths anymore, not just because she knows the truth of the system,
巨人を駆逐するって誰がそんな面倒なことやるもんか！むしろ人類なんて嫌いだ！巨人に滅ぼされたらいいんだ！
but she also sees the moral truth. Any social arrangement that puts her in opposition to her best friend Ymir is inherently wrong to her.
言ったでしょ、ユミル。何があっても私はあなたの味方だって。
So she rejects Rod's plan, smashes the vial, and frees Eren. Eren is arguing for the status quo while Historia believes in the possibility of a better, different world. These are the real stakes of personal obligation versus the ethics provided by society. Personal ethics want to protect the values of the people, while social ethics are designed to sustain the status quo. Attack on Titan Seasons 2 and 3 point to the dire fact that history can be used as a tool to tell the story that ends in the status quo. That's why it's so important that the founding Titans' powers include the ability to wipe the memory of the population. By creating a history that fits their needs, the people in charge are able to maintain persistent control of the population and give them ethical priorities that match the goals of the system. In Attack on Titan, society is sustained by myths. The powers that be will do anything to protect those stories and justify the status quo against the possibility of any other social model.
彼らが守りたいのは人類ではなく、彼らの庭付きの家と地位だけ。むしろ、自分たちの権利が脅かされるのならば、その相手が誰だろうと排除する。
That includes killing Titans, even if they aren't monsters after all, but rather people enduring a terrible fate. Anything is justified if it means keeping society as it is intact. So what do you think, Wisecrack? Is Attack on Titan a lesson on how power works, or is there something we missed? Share your thoughts with the world or create your own professional website by clicking here to create your own free website with Wix. Also, we got some great videos coming out before the end of the year, including ones on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the Justice League, and one on J.R.R. Tolkien that we've been working on for a while. So stay tuned for that, and until next time, peace.